Hey guys, Craig Setzer with you on a Monday, the last day of October, and we are tracking Tropical Storm Lisa. Today, kind of a late end of October storm, not unusual to have something in the Caribbean. Of course, if you like these videos that I do live whenever there's any type of tropical threat anywhere in the mainly Western Atlantic, the Gulf, or the Caribbean, be sure to hit the subscribe button, as well as click on the notifications. And otherwise, I'll just be posting videos kind of about hurricane season, things like that. But these live ones I kind of reserve for more pressing things. So let's start off with the thing I always like to start off with, which is basically just our tropical threats hurricane preps next 5 days graphic. And this just highlights areas where folks may have to or should put together their hurricane preparations. And as you can see there, it is mainly along the Honduran coast where it's red, as well as Belize. There's a yellow area along the eastern Yucatan there, the Caribbean side of the Yucatan, for the possibility of maybe some hurricane conditions. But the threat for hurricane conditions, and it could be just very, very minor hurricane conditions like low wind category 1 or very strong tropical storm conditions, is most prevalent along the Belize coast, as well as the Gulf of Honduras there, the northern Honduras coast. Farther to the south near Nicaragua along the eastern coast there, it looks like most of the wind is going to be offshore flow, so there could be some flooding rains, of course, as well as some tropical storm gusts, but I think the main threat is going to be over Honduras as well as Belize. Cayman Islands, the storm has had a hard time getting better organized, so that's good. In fact, the tropical storm watch for Grand Cayman was dropped, and so the threat there is low. Tropical storm watch remains in effect for Jamaica, but I think the threat is about as high as it's going to get right now for any type of bad weather, and then it's going to slowly decrease as we go into tonight and tomorrow. And so for folks in Jamaica, we're feeling pretty good about this situation. Once again, the storm has been struggling a bit, and I'll show you more in that in just a second. First off, though, let's zoom out and take a look at the rest of the basin, and everybody's in blue. Cuba's in blue, as well as all the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, and the East Coast and the Eastern and Southern Caribbean are blue, which means no threats in terms of hurricane preparations or anything like that. Of course, could see some heavy rain on the backside of this feature as it moves to the west. So if that's really all you wanted to know, are you in the area of concern? That's your answer right there. As soon as the advisory comes in, we'll pop that up. But in the meantime, let's take a deeper dive. So here's the visible satellite loop through the day to day, and let me make sure I've got my my pin here so I can actually draw on the map. And there it is, and so here we go. Yep, a little bit rusty. So there you can see Lisa right there, and a couple of things that jump out right away is that even though it is a little bit more round today, it's still a little bit oblong in terms of kind of being not a perfectly round system there, moving to the west, northwest, and doesn't have really a lot of thunderstorms yet near the center. You can also see it's pretty stormy weather out in the eastern Caribbean. Some of that rain has been going up through Puerto Rico as well as Dominican Republic and Haiti, getting some rain. And some pretty good squalls as well moving through Jamaica, and some of those squalls now headed towards the Caymans. So going to be kind of a stormy evening, stormy night here. Jamaica, and increasingly stormy for the Caymans as well. Weather's still looking pretty good in the area that might need to make preparations here, which will probably go under a hurricane watch. We're about in the 48-hour time frame now for possibility of hurricane conditions there. Remember, a watch means hurricane conditions are possible, and a warning means that they are likely. The watches usually go up about 48 hours before the onset of the tropical storm conditions, even though it's a hurricane watch. Still 48 hours before the onset of tropical storm conditions, and then 36 hours before when it's expected, when the hurricane conditions are expected, 36 hours before the onset of tropical storm conditions. So that's the system right there. The weather looking pretty good through the Gulf, weather looking pretty good over Florida as well, and much of the Caribbean just kind of under the influence of this moist environment here following Lisa as Lisa moves off to the northwest. So what's been going on? Well, Lisa has been struggling. We talked about this dry air, a lot of dry air kind of in the path of Lisa there, and it really hasn't been getting out of the way very quickly. So Lisa's still struggling with some dry air there. You can see some thunderstorms down to the south, some thunderstorms trying to blow up there to the east, but the center's right in there, and the center has not been seeing any persistent thunderstorms over it. And what typically happens is a system, tropical cyclone, tropical depression, tropical storm, doesn't strengthen quickly when it doesn't have thunderstorms around its center. Now, is it going to consolidate some? It's possible, but the models today have backed off. Remember the GFS yesterday, we talked about it, was pretty aggressive on strengthening it and calling for it to become a hurricane as it approached Gulf of Honduras there. But that model has backed off, and I'll show you that in just a second. But you can see there's also a bit of shear here, some motion there from the southwest. The wind shear is forecast to drop just a little bit, which may also help it to get its act together and strengthen a little bit. You can see the dry air once again preceding it, and more moist air in the central and eastern Caribbean following it. And up here in Florida, we've got southwesterly winds. That's wind shear. There's no chance that this is going to suddenly make a turn like that. That is not in the equation at all. So we're just watching it up here in Florida, as well as Cuba, and folks, of course, watching it very, very closely, if not beginning to make preps there along the far west and northwest Caribbean. Let's talk about the close-up visible satellite loop, and you can see there through the day, the center is located right about in here, in that part there, and it is continuing to move to the west, but doesn't have a lot of thunderstorms around it. And the thunderstorms have been really not showing any signs of getting better organized either. In fact, the hurricane hunters through the day today, you can see making a pretty straight line. Those are the fixes there, and so kind of moving almost due west on according to their center fixes. The pressures come down just a little bit, and the strongest winds are mainly on the eastern side there. There have been winds in the tropical storm range there on the eastern side, but not as much wind on the western side, the leading edge of it. So it's a little bit of a lopsided type of tropical system as well as it moves to the west. This is the model here. This is the European model, the ensemble model, and so the blue members here, that would be indications of a bit of a stronger system there. Still a tropical storm. There's very few blue members there. Most of them are light blue here. This kind of, like I said, be a teal kind of color there. And they are indicating just not a whole lot of strengthening from the European, but very good agreement there that it's going to be moving basically west to west-northwest and then turning a little bit to the west-southwest there as it gets on closer to the coast there. And the time frame here, that's 48 hours, and 48 showing up there. So we're about 2 days away, and once again, that's also in the time frame now for watches for the coast there. This is the GFS today, and the GFS, once again, this is the ensemble. It is not showing much in the way of strengthening anymore. A few of these members here are blue. Remember yesterday there were some greens, even some yellows and some oranges there, but not that showing up anymore. So the models have kind of settled down on any big intensification, and as would be expected with a system that's dealing with some dry air and doesn't have thunderstorms over the center, probably it would be hard to imagine it strengthens quickly. It's not out of the question, but it would be hard, at least over the next 24 hours, thinking of it to strengthen quickly as it moves to the west. There's an opportunity here as it gets closer to Belize and the Honduran coast where it could strengthen, but that opportunity probably not as great as it looked like it was yesterday. Let's take a look at the shear pattern. This is the upper level shear, and this also you can see in the GFS here has the model pressure there, and it's only 1,008, 1,007, 1,003, so it does still show some intensification there as it approaches the coast. So in this case, of course, red is the higher wind shear, and tropical storms and hurricanes need the wind shear to be low, and it's marginally low. You can see as it makes this track here, it's kind of underneath the upper level high, but the wind shear very strong across the Gulf, strong across Florida, strong across Cuba as well, and that pattern forecast to continue there. So no big changes in terms of the wind shear abating over us, which is good. So no threat from a tropical system in this case. So let's say if it were to just kind of do something crazy and deviate, which is not going to, it would be torn apart as soon as it got farther to the northwest. So once again, we're feeling very good about that. One thing I did want to show you, this was from the GFS, and this is going forward into time here. And let me just step along here. So this is kind of the middle and kind of a little bit of lower part of the atmosphere moisture. And the brown there indicates the drier conditions, and you can see the system Lisa down in here to start on the model here. And let's go forward into time because things kind of evolve. There is Lisa moving off to the west, and that time frame there is 48 hours, so approaching the coast there, and you can see the moisture coming with it and reaching Belize there, the Yucatan, and the moisture trails it for a while. So the weather looks pretty stormy there in the Western Caribbean for a while. Look what's going on though in Florida. This is the kind of the thing while we're waiting for the advisory to come in that I wanted to point out. So there's this low that is forecast to develop. Now this does not look like a tropical low, just a strong low, and it looks like it ushers maybe a cold front or at least some drier air down from the north. And then this thing really kind of winds up here off of our coast here, off of Florida. You can see it dropping all the way to the southeast Bahamas, and then it kind of sits there, and then it begins to retreat back to the west. Now the GFS has been kind of going crazy on like developing these little spurious kind of tropical cyclones here. This is, discount that. But I think what's kind of cool is that we get this big low pressure area that's forecast to develop there, and it kind of starts putting some really strong easterly winds in here. This is a week from today. This is next Monday evening, and it could be really kind of nasty weather. When you see these things set up like this, it's blowing hard out of the northeast. There's clouds and showers coming in, and it's just not really nice weather. So if this thing actually evolves like this, there's our advisory coming in. If this thing evolves like this, it's going to be very, very interesting. All right, let's get to the advisory. All right, so we're waiting. It's coming in now, so we'll wait for it to update as it comes in. The 5 o'clock number here will change. It's 2 p.m. there at the top because that was the intermediate advisory, but parts of the advisory are coming in. So government of Honduras, and I can read it here as it's coming in. The government of Honduras has issued a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning for the Bay Islands of Honduras, plus a tropical storm watch for the entire northern coast of the country. So that's basically tropical storm watch for the entire northern coast of Honduras, and for the Bay Islands, a hurricane watch. The government of Belize has issued a hurricane watch for the entire coast of Belize, basically from Guatemala north to Chetumal, Mexico. So basically all of Belize under a hurricane watch. Government of Guatemala has issued a tropical storm watch for the Caribbean coast of Guatemala, which is right there, that little part right there where Guatemala touches the Caribbean coast. So basically what we have now is a hurricane watch kind of in this area right there, and we have a tropical storm watch, and I believe it was for tropical storm watch for all of the northern coast there. And so it basically ends right there along the Mexican Belize coast. That's where the watches end there. So let's go forward into time here. And this is the new advisory, even though they're updated at the top. So 5 p.m., winds at 45 miles an hour, moving to the west at 14. The pressure a little bit lower, 1,002 millibars. So as the pressure kind of drops here, we're going to have to watch that, because if the pressure continues, if it continues to come down and drops below 1,000 millibars, then that's an indication that the winds are probably going to start to come up, and could be quite a strong tropical storm or even a hurricane is in the forecast here. Now, of course, I show on my cone here this area, this yellow area here, that is the tropical storm conditions, and any red that pops up here, right there, you can see it there, that is the threat for hurricane conditions. So here are our timelines here, and you can see the tropical storm conditions extend well outside of the cone. That's the outline of the cone right there. So there's the outline of the cone. Doesn't matter if you're in or out of the cone. If you were with me all through Ian and all the other storms, Fiona, that we covered, no, it doesn't matter if you're in or out of the cone. It matters if you're in or out of the tropical storm conditions. And you can see they are to the south of Jamaica, to the south of the Cayman Islands. They're skirting now the coast, the northern coast of Honduras there, as you can see. And there's the hurricane conditions, which extend just to the coast there. So this is 2 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. So here's tomorrow's time frame, and then there is the Wednesday time frame, and that's 2 p.m. So the weather starts to deteriorate along the northern coast here of Honduras during the day tomorrow, and tomorrow night, and then deteriorates by early in the day on Wednesday for Belize. So folks, Belize, also along the northern coast there, especially the coast closest to Guatemala, you need to have everything wrapped up by sunset Tuesday night in terms of hurricane preparations there along Belize, because the weather will likely go downhill very, very quickly Wednesday morning. Remember, when we plan for any type of hurricane event, we always do it on a clock. We do it on a timeline here, and we want to have things completed by a certain time. So by Tuesday night there in Belize, you want to have things wrapped up. That is the Wednesday afternoon time frame, and then you can see it weakening there as it moves inland, eventually crossing Guatemala as well as into southeast Mexico there. So that's the time frame on that. And then let's see if the watches have updated. Yeah, they have. So here once again is our hurricane watch now, which covers Belize there, that part of Guatemala there, and then there's the tropical storm watch. It does cover a part of the southeast Yucatan Peninsula as well as the northern coast of Honduras there, and then we have the tropical storm warning that's in effect, as well as a hurricane watch for the Bay Islands there of Honduras. So that's kind of the way things shape up this afternoon. I won't belabor it anymore. It's kind of a long video for a storm that's not affecting Florida, but of course folks in the Caribbean, they're just like folks anywhere else. You want the information, you want to know what's going on and what's the latest. So that's pretty much the latest. We'll do another update tomorrow around 4:30. In the meantime, if you like, be sure to click the like button, subscribe, and get the notifications. And that's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow.